tonight with Stephen A. Smith, Michael Wilbon, Jalen Rose. I'm Mike Greenberg. Our games will be good, but our opening tip tonight will take us to a man who played last night about as well as you can play. Luka Doncic had 41 points in a triple-double against the Nets. In all, he accounted for 80 of the Mavericks' points in an overtime win, and he's currently the leading scorer in the NBA at 36.3 points per game. So, Stephen A. Smith, our opening question tonight is simple. Is it time to say Luka Doncic is the best player in the world?
No, it's not. Giannis Antetokounmpo is still in this league. Kevin Durant, averaging 33, is still in this league. Ja Morant, who's averaging 32, is still in this league. Don't get me wrong, he's in the conversation. It's debatable. At the end of this season, we might be saying something different, but is it time to crown him as the best player in the league at this moment? No, I'm not going there yet definitively.
How about you, Michael?
No, not yet. But like Stephen A. says, it's not an argument against Luka, but there's an argument in favor of other people, like Giannis, primarily for me. And Ja, the thing is, Luka doesn't have an impact on the defensive end, and those two do.
Yes.
Particularly Ja.
Correct.
Ja's a game-changing defensive player. It might only be 2 or 3 plays a game, Greeny. I'm not saying it's lockdown like Kawhi Leonard was 5 years ago or anything of that nature. But, man, Ja has plays that change the direction and the outcome of games. Luka doesn't have that impact on the defensive end yet. If you're going to say best player in the NBA, to me, you got to have both ends.
These guys named all of the prime candidates for best top players in the game, and I agree. But Luka does something, and Giannis is the best player in the league to me. But Luka does something that nobody else does. He's going to give me 40 and give me 14 assists. He's making the people around him better. And KD is a better player than Luka. But last night served a purpose when I was watching that game. I saw KD and Kyrie able to lift themselves, score the ball. I saw Luka with a team that isn't as talented still be able to dominate on the perimeter and make the people around him better.
Right.
Them 2 behind-the-back passes to Kleber and Bullock, those were the plays that separate.
Dallas's roster is not particularly impressive otherwise, right?
You're totally right. They got nice, solid pieces that know how to play their position. So we got to give credit when credit's doing. They're exceptionally well coached. We got to give that too. And Nico Harris is doing a hell of a job building this franchise. But I will tell you this, KD, we know how I feel about KD. I think when he's the best in the world. That is not what I've seen when he went up against Milwaukee. That is not what I've seen when he's going up against Luka Doncic in Dallas. What I've seen is a guy that got numbers. What I saw were 2 of those guys he was going against that had a greater impact. And that is what has given me cause to pause about them compared to KD. They have impact and they are making it felt.
You said the 2 teams, you left out Boston.
Yes.
Because when they got swept in the playoffs last year, people were questioning Jason Tatum lifted himself into the conversation of KD. But we definitely agree that KD's in the top 3 or 4.
And it was these 2, the last 2 nights is what you're referring to. That's who the Nets have played. They lost to Milwaukee a couple nights ago. They lose this game to Dallas last night. Let's talk more about the Nets for a moment. We know Stephen A. entered the season very high on them. But in that loss 2 nights ago, Ben Simmons passing up right here, what looks like a good shot. Kyrie Irving yells at him on the floor to shoot it. But then afterwards, Kyrie stood up for his teammate. Here's what he said.
Give him a chance. You know what I mean? We stay on his, I wish I could say other words because I'm from Jersey, but we stay on him. And, you should stay on him. And we're just here to give him positive affirmations while he's out there and just let him hoop. And then while he's hooping and getting back into it, we're going to have to really gel as a team in order to learn how to win as a group. It's not an individual's job to go out there and be Superman. He doesn't have to.
He doesn't, but they are asking a lot of him, particularly on the defensive end. Look at this list of most matchups when guarded by Simmons, ranging from Giannis to Zion to Ja Morant. The results are rough this season. He ranks 3rd worst in field goal percentage allowed among 102 players to defend 50 shots. So, Stephen A., the Nets are 1-4. Given what we are seeing from Simmons right now, is it enough for them to have the season that you have predicted they should have?
Not if he's playing the way that he's playing. He's been bad. And whilst I'm not talking about his shooting, I'm not even talking about his clear fright of getting to the free throw line. I expected him to be a defensive stalwart. I expected him to have an impact on the defensive side of the ball. When you play in defense, you ain't got to worry about shooting. What you got to do is be locked down. You're 6'10", you're mobile, you're athletic, you are a game changer defensively. He had a big-time steal last night against Luka Doncic, then ultimately feeding Kevin Durant the ball for the breakaway dunk, the slam that tied the game and ultimately pushed it into overtime. What I will say, though, is this. I need more from Kevin Durant, too. Kyrie Irving, I got to confess, I am pleased with what I'm seeing from him. I'm not talking about balling. I'm talking about press conferences, answering questions.
He was great right then.
That's right. That's what I'm going to.
Everything you want to hear from him right there.
He's articulating what he's playing. He's not talking about being a leader. Kyrie Irving is being a leader. So Kevin Durant, I got faith in. I'm looking at Kyrie Irving. I believe in him at least for this year because he wants that bag. Ben Simmons, you got to show up and play some defense. The shooting and all that stuff is a different category. There is no excuse for him not to be an elite defensive player.
And Kyrie's been fighting through screens, getting rebounds, and getting blocks too. But they're 0-3 their last 3 games, and their 2 best players have 210 points.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what I said about making the people around you better. But here's the other thing I want to say about Ben Simmons. The game is so difficult when you can't shoot. It's even more difficult when you have a mental block to not attempt shots. And I'm about to teach everybody something. The shots that he's making, you notice they're on the run, running hooks. Why? Because he has a mental block of shooting the ball. That's a rhythm play where he doesn't have to think. But when he goes to the line, after he does his running with his right hand, he's shooting with his left hand. That's not going to change. And so what I'm telling you is they acquired a guy that they hope to be an all-star level player. When you're not averaging 10 points and you play on the perimeter, he's not an all-star level player anymore. And let me tell you one other thing about the fouls. He is still a great defensive player, but it's different when you're playing up front with KD and Claxton.